Warning, the following podcast has been classified as insanely lucrative. Listener discretion is advised.
What one of our customers did, and his sessions increased like 2x, like 200% more people were clicking on his listing.
Your attention, please. Listening to the AM/PM podcast may cause recurring revenue streams and unfair advantages over your competitors. Other side effects may include fatter wallets, fired bosses, and longer vacations. Listen at your own risk. Here's your host, seven-figure entrepreneur and online marketing madman, Manny Coates. Manny Coates.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AM/PM podcast. My name is Manny Coates, and I will be your host, and this is the show where we discuss how to generate recurring revenue streams 24 hours per day during the AM and the PM, hence the name of the show. As a matter of fact, it was Memorial Day weekend, and I ate way too much. But I was out there with my friends, we were barbecuing, having drinks, just laughing, having fun. And while doing all that barbecuing and having all that fun, I was making money. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. So today's episode is awesome, actually. I gotta admit. We got Greg Mercer on the show. And for those of you that don't know Greg Mercer, he's the founder of Jungle Scout. But he's also jumping into other software tools and platforms. He's also got Review Kick. And he's going to be announcing something he hasn't announced to anybody yet. It's coming out on this show. You're hearing it first here, hopefully. And most of the interviews that I've heard Greg actually participate in have all been about Jungle Scout. They've been basic interviews, I would say, for the most part. And I know most of our listeners now are beyond that, right? They want to know more. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about some intermediate to even advanced strategies. Talk about what Greg does, some of the split testing he's done, and just a lot of cool stuff. So I hope you walk away with at least a few gold nuggets. Oh, and make sure you stick all the way to the end. We've got a special announcement at the very end. Okay, guys? Hey, guys. It is my privilege to introduce Greg Mercer, founder of Jungle Scout. He's joining us on this call, this interview. Greg, how are you doing?
Manny, I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on the show. I'm excited to chat with you for the next hour or so.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So for our listeners that haven't actually heard of you or Jungle Scout, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the company?
Yeah, I'm Greg Mercer. I started selling on Amazon myself a little over 3 years ago, so about 3.5 years ago. I originally did it to escape my day job. At one point, I was working as a civil engineer. I wasn't super happy with it. I always had a strong entrepreneurial spirit, just wanted to quit. So I was able to replace my income through selling on Amazon. And then about 1.5 years, 2 years later, that's when I invented Jungle Scout, which is a software tool for Amazon sellers. A lot of people may have heard my name associated with that particular product. And then today, I'm still selling on Amazon as well as running the software company.
Awesome. And you're backpacking it around the world, right? You're not in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm homeless. I'm doing the digital nomad thing. So my wife and I, we've actually been traveling for about 1.5 years. So we usually move around. We'll stay in a place for a month or two and then pack up and go to a new location. So yeah, it's a really nice way to live life, and we're really enjoying it.
Awesome. And you're in Barcelona now. And where did you just come from?
Yeah, so I'm in Barcelona right now. I was in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil before this. So, and then, yeah, I'm going to spend most of the summer in the Mediterranean area.
Okay, awesome. Well, before we get into the details, I always have one silly question I ask all of our guests. It's always a different question. Greg, are you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
All right, here we go. Have you ever eaten something you are not proud of?
Manny, as we were just saying, I've been traveling for 1.5 years, and one of the locations in last year was Thailand. And I have to admit that I did eat a few weird bugs and stuff when I was in Thailand. So I can't say I'm super proud of that, but I guess it was a good experience.
Were they tasty at least? Was it good?
No, they weren't tasty. I think they were covered in salt, and I think we quickly washed it down with a Thai beer, and I guess that helped.
Perfect. So you said you got into Amazon FBA. You're now doing Jungle Scout, and that's just rocking. It's doing really well. Everybody knows about it. Are you 100% focused on the software now, or do you still sell on Amazon?
Yeah, so I'm still a very active seller. I have one full-time person who runs or helps me run that side of the business. We're still launching new products, still growing. We do roughly $400,000 to $500,000 a month. So about $500,000 a month roughly. So yeah, of course that top line revenue of that, I think margins are somewhere in the 25% area. So yeah, that business is still moving along very nicely. I do devote the majority of my time to Jungle Scout and the software stuff. But to be honest, that's just kind of a personal preference. It's a little bit more fun to me. It's a little bit newer. I haven't been doing it as long. So that is a little more enjoyable to me just because it's something new and fresh.
Yeah, that's awesome. 400 to 500,000, $500,000 a month. So, and your margins seem to be right what I'm doing and what other people are doing. I always hear people saying, oh yeah, I got 50, 60% margins. Do you find that those kinds of margins are difficult to do at scale?
To be honest with you, I think when we use the term margins, it a lot of times is kind of like miscalculated or misused in the Amazon FBA world because I guess when I say like 25, 30%, whatever, that would be with Amazon's fees included. So if I sold an item for $100, I'd make $33 after Amazon takes their fees. It seems like some people use the term like not including Amazon FBA fees, but anyway, so for me personally, I would find that like 50 or 60% margins are pretty hard to do at scale. Even in the 25, 30, 35% range, usually that's like 100% return on investment. So if I'm buying an item for $10, I'm making $10 profit, which I think is great. So if you're doing 50 or 60%, you're probably talking, if you're buying an item for $10, you're making, $15 or $20 off it, which I do think that's pretty tough to do. I'm not saying there's not some items that do it. I find that to be a little more difficult.
Yeah, I agree. I've got some small products that do those kinds of margins, even after all fees, all advertising expenses. But if I were to scale it out, if I'm going to blow this thing up, amount of expenses goes up because I'm pushing a lot more advertising and the margins go down. So every time I see someone, saying they've got 50 or 60% margins and they've got big numbers, I always wonder, like you just said, if it's actually not including specific fees. So it's interesting to hear your thoughts on that. That's good.
Yeah.
So let's talk. We got some really cool stuff, guys, by the way, that we're going to talk about some split testing that Greg's doing. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask a few more questions related to some of the things that people ask on our Facebook group. Since you use Jungle Scout for so many things and you're working on that, do you find that there's any products you feel people should probably stay away from that maybe you've had a change of heart on since originally starting this whole process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd say, stay away from, and this is probably common knowledge, but I'd say stay away from all of the really popular items. So if you ever make a search and there's 2 or 3 pages of results of pretty much that same identical item, those right away are going to be red flags for me, something I'm going to stay away from. Besides that, besides just the super competitive stuff, I really don't have any certain products or product types that I'd recommend staying away from.
Okay. Do you think, are there any unexploited categories you think people should start looking into?
No, I get that question a lot, like, oh, if you only had to recommend one category, what would it be? I don't think that there's one category where, the demand is like an outlier, with much higher demand and much lower competition. So I think even, some people I think sometimes say like the gated categories are usually a little bit less competitive, but I don't know if I've actually found that to be true.
Okay. What are your thoughts on FBA sellers moving to larger, heavier products to avoid that whole rat race on products? The ones that pretty much everybody's teaching, that you got to keep it light. It's got to fit into a shoebox. It's got to be, small.
Yeah, I think it's a great model. Without a doubt, there's less competition on the oversized and heavier and more expensive products. There's a higher barrier of entry because you have to have more cash. You probably have to ship them ocean freight, which is obviously more headaches. So, anything that's going to have a higher barrier of entry is going to have less competition. So yeah, if you have a little bit more money to spend and you're willing to invest a little more time and maybe headaches into growing this into like a larger kind of more legitimate or more official business, then the oversized or more expensive stuff, I think is a great place to go.
I agree. I think once you start getting into oversized products, first of all, the cost is typically higher, so it just pushes out a lot more people. Might not be able to afford to jump into that category. And then I think everybody has been classically trained. If they've been listening to podcasts or training courses, everything that's out there has always said, keep it small, keep it light, keep it under a couple pounds, because otherwise it's going to be too expensive to get it out here to the U.S. if that's where they're at. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, there's something to be said for that. If you're just starting out, I'm a big fan of just getting started and trying something out. And if that's the case, if this is your first product, you might want to check out some of those products because they are a little bit easier to launch. But Because of that, obviously, there's going to be more competitors too, because it is easier. So yeah, you can just kind of keep all those things in mind and see kind of where you fit in best for where you're at in your life and business.
Perfect. So I'm often using tools for purposes outside their normal usage. And I won't go into all the details, but I'm constantly trying to think outside the box. Are there any, I might be putting you on the spot here, Greg, but are there any cool tips that you use Jungle Scout for that a lot of people might not use it for?
Yeah, I don't think enough people take advantage of running it on like the seller storefront. So a lot of times, like if I find one of my competitors, like if I thought I had an awesome product, a competitor launches like the same thing, I'll be like, okay, this guy's probably pretty bright. Maybe we think along the same lines as far as how much demand, competition we're looking for. It's like the first thing I always do is go to their storefront, run Jungle Scout, and see all the other products that they're selling and like which of those are doing well. And a lot of times I found a ton of the products I sell now using that method. So I think maybe some people are doing that, but I think that is like an underutilized or something that people should be doing because it's a great tactic for finding new products.
Right. So that's a great tip. So what you're saying is you might be looking at a product and you're like, okay, this product looks pretty solid. It's generating, $10,000 a month. You go on to, you click into that seller storefront, and then you've got, say, 12 products that they're selling. You run Jungle Scout, and you might actually find one or two gems in there that are way better than the product you were looking at initially.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And of course, you can like extract the next page of results too, So even if that seller has like 5 pages of results, just hit that little extract button like 5 times. You'll have all of his products there in Jungle Scout. Sort by which ones are selling the most a month or the highest revenue. And then usually when you do that, you'll find there's some products that are better than the one you're initially looking at.
Yeah. That actually happened to me. One of my better selling products wasn't the primary product I was looking for. It happened to be something the seller was actually selling in addition to what I was looking at. So yeah, absolutely. Nice. It works. Yeah. So, all right. Jungle Scout has been, you've been in a million podcasts. You've been all over the place. Everybody, I think for the most part, knows quite a bit about it. So I wanted to talk to you. We talked about this actually off the air here, but I wanted to talk to you about some more advanced strategy, things that really haven't been discussed out there. I like to keep our listeners up to date with some fresh ideas. And you've been busy, haven't you, with some pretty interesting listing optimization techniques?
Yes, I have. So, engineer by background, right? I guess I'm always like, I love the data, right? And collecting lots of data, running tests. We're constantly running different split tests on like the websites and now the Amazon listings and stuff. So yeah, I could geek out about this stuff for days, but it's really exciting to me, and it's super cool too, when you can improve your conversions, your sessions by a bunch. So yeah, let's chat about it.
All right. So first of all, let's talk about people that might not know exactly what listing optimizations are. They just go in there, they just throw keywords in and titles and get things going. What's your take on that, and why is listing optimization so important?
Yeah. So, let's just think about big picture here. There's only so much we can do on the Amazon platform, right? It's actually a very simple platform. For each product, we only get one listing. On that one listing, we can only have a maximum number of pictures. They tell us exactly how many bullet points we can have, how long they can be, and so forth. So, if we want to be competitive on Amazon, especially as the competition on Amazon grows, we really need to make sure that we have the best listings, they're converting well, and so forth. The other reason it's so important is because, each time I guess we start at the very beginning. One, we want the most people clicking on our listings. And then once they're clicking on our listings, we want the most conversions once they're there. And, if you're improving your conversions by only a few percent, this could mean hundreds or thousands of extra dollars, on a monthly basis. So it is very important, to have the absolute best listing possible.
Are you, when you're making optimization changes, what's your process there in terms of the number of changes you make at a time, and how long do you wait before you go in and make another, let's say, a massive change?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So general split testing principles is, you always want to just try to change one thing at a time. And this is if you're doing A/B testing on your website or your Amazon listing or whatever, because without it, it's really hard to know what's working and what's not working, right? Like maybe you changed 2 things. Maybe one thing improved your listing, but the other thing, made it a little bit worse. And then you just think there was no changes at all. So, good rule of thumb is only one change at a time. If it's a change that's going to affect either your sessions or your conversions pretty much immediately, what I like to do is change it around midnight Pacific time, because that's when the numbers that Amazon gives you as far as sessions and conversions and so forth, they're on a daily basis, for that particular day, and it's on Pacific time. And then it's good to try to, either have that up for a day or 2 days or 3 days or whatever, change it, do the same thing for the same number of days. If it's something like changing your main picture or possibly changing maybe like the order of your bullets or something else that you think is going to affect your conversions, if it's something that's more keyword related and how you're going to rank in the search results, these are more long-term type changes that are going to take longer to take into effect. So something like that, you might want to change, wait a week or 2 weeks before you make another change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth. I have some questions, but you're talking about, the longer term stuff. What would be some of the, let's say, the easy wins when it comes to split testing or optimization?
Yeah. So the first two things that I would recommend testing, and I've done a whole bunch of testing now. I have a whole bunch of data to back this up. The two things that are the easiest wins are going to make the biggest difference are the price and the main image. Okay. So real quick, we'll talk about price. I think it's fair to say that all of us Amazon sellers, we want the maximum amount of profit, right? So sometimes that means raising your price, and sometimes that means lowering your price, right? So some of these items, if it is an item that is significantly or even, moderately better than your competition, a lot of times it's best to try raising your price first, okay? So like, for instance, let me give you a little example here. One of my products I made a small improvement to. Its average star rating is 4.5 stars, where my next closest competitor is 3.5 stars, and a few of the other ones are 3 or 3.5 stars. So that product is significantly better than my competition. So something like that, I would start by raising your price and seeing when it starts to affect your conversions and what's the optimal price for the maximum amount of profit. And a lot of times what you'll find is if your product really is significantly better than your competition, what I found is Amazon buyers actually aren't as price sensitive as you think. So for instance, one of my products, the same one that I'm giving the example that I had 4.5 stars compared to my competitor that had 3.5, I was originally selling it for $25.95, and I was actually able to raise that price all the way to $33.95 without it affecting my conversion. So
nice.
Selling 10 of those a day, that's an extra like $80 a day, right?
Right.
So that's a huge win. That's a lot of money. If the product is more of like a Me Too product and, it's very similar to your competition, then it's going to be a lot more sensitive. Don't expect to be able to raise it by like $8 and, still convert it the same amount. So something like that, you would want to test maybe $1 lower, maybe $1 higher and so forth to see, what's the maximum amount of profit. So it doesn't always mean the most units sold. Maybe you're selling a few less per day, but if you're making $2 or $3 extra per sale, maybe it's still the maximum amount of profit.
Yeah. We talked about margins in the beginning, right? Where if you're shooting, let's say for a $9 or $10 profit, when everything is said and done, simply by raising your price and generating an extra $3, it doesn't seem like a lot. It's only $3. But if you were making $9 and now you're making $12, that's a large percentage, right?
Yeah, that's a huge amount.
You've increased it by 30 some odd percent, right?
Right.
If I'm doing the numbers right. But I did the same thing. I had a product. It was right around mid-20s, and I was starting to run low on inventory. This was a while back when I discovered this. And I don't do this practice anymore where I raise pricing to slow sales. I found that it wrecks my conversion and hurts me later. But I started raising the price, got up to an extra $3 higher, and I noticed my conversions improved. So my sales went faster.
Right.
And I was like, what? So I found that sweet spot, and now that's the price that I had actually raised it to is the current price that I use for all my product for that particular product line, and it's higher than all my competitors because, as you said, the main image looks so much nicer than what they're using.
Yeah, so a lot of people are really surprised by this, and it's something you just don't know until you start testing, right? So I think testing the price is like the easiest potential big win on your product, So I think everyone needs to be price testing. I think the second easiest thing or the second biggest win is actually the main image, kind of like you just said right there. So, and let me give you a few examples of this because I've tested a whole bunch of different main images, and we'll start by talking about the totally 100% legit way because this is what I recommend is do something that really makes your product stand out. Okay. I think we all know that per Amazon's guidelines, and this is why I say the 100% legit way, I think the main image is supposed to have like your entire product in it, totally white background. It's not supposed to have any like badges or extra words or so forth on your image. And there's a lot you can do inside of these guidelines. So we're doing also some split testing, helping kind of other people out. So I wanted to give some of these examples, but I also kind of want to like protect the privacy of their products, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought of a good analogy. Imagine if you were selling chia seeds, okay? So, you at one point, all your competitors were showing like a bag or a container or whatever of chia seeds, like you'd probably just blend in with the rest of the people on the page, and that's fine. But imagine instead if you were to pour out those chia seeds onto a white paper, a whiteboard or whatever, and write out the word chia in the chia seeds. Okay.
Mhm.
What you'll find, this is a good analogy of what one of our customers did. And his sessions increased like 2x, like 200% more people were clicking on his listing. So you can do some little like creative things like that will get you like a ton more exposure. It draws your eye right away to your product, to your main image when someone makes that search. And it's pretty amazing, really.
That's genius. Yeah. So you can't use text on your listing, but if you're selling bags of M&Ms or chia seeds or whatever they might be, you just spell out the word using the product itself. It's so awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
And then it's different than everything else. So people click into it. They're like, whoa, what is this? Plus it says what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So most of your listeners probably aren't selling chia seeds or M&Ms, but just think, like use that same kind of mindset to get a little bit of creative, like how you're taking these pictures. Maybe it's a different angle. Maybe it's you're kind of putting it in a little bit of a funny shape. You really just want to draw people's eye to your particular listing as opposed to your competition. So another kind of cool thing you can do, if you're bundling it with an item, say for instance, I'm selling whatever piece of electronic and it comes with like a little case. Maybe you want that case to be like a neon color for the sole reason that in your main image, you can now show this neon colored case. And again, it draws the eye straight to that. That's probably what's going to get the most clicks. And, at that point, you can work on your conversions.
Yeah, that's a good idea. This is for your main image, just so everybody's clear on this. You want your main image, which is going to be your thumbnail, and you want it to be different than all the other products that are on that search page results so that people click in and at least see your product.
That's exactly right. So yeah, I think the easiest thing to test is the price. And that second easiest thing to test is going to be the main image.
Okay. Let me ask you real quick, because a lot of people always ask us, when you're doing your main image, do you recommend people do their own shots if they're doing that, that white background, or send it out to a professional company? What are your thoughts there?
Personally, I use a professional company. I think he only charges me like $150 for all my pictures. I think it's a no-brainer, but I don't know. If you're good at photography, you can set up like a little makeshift, white background and so forth. Personally, though, I recommend just spending the money and having a professional do it.
Okay. So those are two of the fast wins. I guess they're easier to do. Are there other things that take a little bit longer? Maybe some more advanced stuff that that you've been working on?
Yeah. So those two, easy wins, those are things that you can rotate, like every 24 hours. You can notice a big change or big difference on how many sessions you're getting. And then especially with price on how well it's converting. So those things I can rotate like every 24 hours.
So if you're rotating it every 24 hours and sales are from Amazon are delayed, right? Especially with pay-per-click and things like that. You don't see the results immediately. What do you do in order to attribute the sales for the specific change you just made if you're doing it every single day? What's your process there?
Yeah, so you can download a report out of Seller Central that gives you the sessions and the conversions and so forth on a daily basis. And that's why I was talking about a little bit earlier, that you want to change it around midnight Pacific time, because that's the time frame that they're giving you for the sessions and conversions for that day. But you're right, that report isn't accurate actually until about like the third day. So, if you can remember to kind of change it every 24 hours, so forth for a week, then wait like 2 days, then download the report on the third day, then that's when you can have like an accurate, good week's worth of information.
Okay.
That being said, if you want it to be really accurate, you want to do it for at least like 2 weeks, because then it would be the different price or the different image, like you'd have the different price on 2 different Mondays, because it's also going to change on the day of the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. That was actually going to be my next question is, if you're running something on a Wednesday versus a Saturday, you probably shouldn't compare the two results because it's going to be different. So run similar changes on the same day of the week. Make sure there's no holiday wrapped right around that particular date, things like that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then, of course, the longer you do it for, the more accurate the information is going to be. And there's like some online free calculators for the minimum significance value and so forth if you want to get real technical with it and if you're good with statistics.
So, and if you have multiple products that are very similar, they're either very similar or they might even be variations. Let's say they have different colors. Would you split it in terms of like, okay, on the blue product, I'm going to just make a title change. And then on the red product, I'm going to do an image change and run those and then kind of like flip flop back and forth if you have those two things so you can speed up the split testing?
Yeah, you could do that. That'd be a good idea. If you do have a variation or two similar types that are shown in the search results as both of them, then that would be a way to do it. But a lot of times, you'll only get like one of those variations in the search results, at least for like the major keywords, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to like click into the listing until you see all the variations.
Cool. Yeah, those are good strategies then. So what are some of the other strategies you've been working on?
Some of the other stuff is all going to relate around keywords.
Mhm.
And the kind of more difficult thing about testing the keywords is Amazon systems, obviously, we don't know exactly how long it takes them to re-index, our listings, exactly how long it takes for keyword changes to really take effect in the search engine rankings and so forth. So these are going to be more long-term type things. For these, I'd want to change it like one day, maybe wait a week, see how that was affected, then maybe change it again after another week, wait for it to see how it affects it. A few of like the little tips that I found through my personal testing, and I'd actually kind of like to put you on the spot, Manny, and kind of chat with you about this because I know you also like to do some of this testing. Is
Go for it.
Yeah, maybe we'll keep this kind of more of an open conversation.
Sure.
So we've tried to run some like different types of tests, right? So a lot of these things are kind of common beliefs, but I wanted to test it to see like, okay, is everyone just saying this just because everyone else is, or is this actually kind of more like factual information? So one would be kind of like keyword stuffing, so does it make a difference to have the same keyword maybe in 2 or 3 different parts of like your bullet points and then same thing on your product description? Does it make sense to, if I'm selling my bamboo marshmallow sticks, to have bamboo marshmallow sticks written like twice in the bullet points and then maybe like 2 more or 3 more times in the description? Or does just one time in my whole listing, is that good enough?
Mm-hmm.
So through our testing for this specific thing, we found that there doesn't appear to be a difference with including these keywords multiple times in the bullet points or the description. One time seems to give you the same like rankings for that keyword as including it a bunch of times. Does that make sense?
So just to clarify, are you saying, for example, in your bullet points, and if the word was rock, you would only mention the word rock once in the bullet points, or are you referring to mentioning the word rock in bullet points and also mentioning it in your title?
I think it appears the title ranks words a little bit differently. So all your main keywords, I would definitely want to include in your title, but I don't think you need to include it multiple times then in your bullet points and in your description. So if the keyword's rock, I'd put it once in my title, I put it once in my bullet points or description, and then that's it. I mean,
Okay.
If you need it again to flow nicely in a sentence, that's fine. I don't think definitely doesn't seem to be a penalty for that. But I think some people are kind of like old school SEO people thinking like, okay, I need to include this 3, 4, 5 times and really let Amazon know that it's an awesome word.
Yeah. That also came. A lot of people in the mobile space were doing that, especially on Android, where they're like, all right, I've got to repeat the main keyword 5 times or 6 times, whatever the number would be in the description. So they move over to Amazon and they do the same thing, the same practice. But like you're saying, it doesn't make a difference, or it doesn't seem to be making any kind of difference.
Yeah, exactly. And none of us knows, the exact Amazon A9 algorithm, right? If they did, they'd be billionaires and they wouldn't be sharing it with anyone. But, that's something that I want to test for myself. To be honest, I was really hoping that I could just put rock in there 20 times and I would rank number 1 for it, right? But that doesn't appear to be the case.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. So it's good that you split test this and check it out. For us, same thing. If I have it in my title, I would put it in my title, and if I had space, I would also throw it into some other places. But lately, if I've got a lot of keywords, anything that's in the title, I try not to put it anywhere else. I don't need to put it anywhere else unless it's just by coincidence, because I'm trying to describe something. I definitely don't mention things, at least on purpose, more than once, just like you suggested in bullets or descriptions. I will take plural versions of something, even though Amazon's supposed to account for that. I've found that doesn't always happen. So if it's rock, I might put rocks in the description and then rock in the bullet points, for example. And then I used to, up until just recently, I would take all my keywords, including everything that was in my title, bullets, and descriptions, and I would include those in the back end search terms. Since since almost everybody now has 5,000 characters, I was like, why not? There's so many characters, you can just throw them in there. But I found that doesn't really do anything either. It really doesn't need to be placed again unless you're not ranking for it on the back end search terms. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they just assume that if you stick it into the search terms on the back end, that you'll be indexed for them. And that doesn't always happen. I found, in fact, that usually only about half of those keywords get indexed.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned that because I was actually going to say something similar to that. And I agree with you 100%. Through our kind of research, I've seen the same thing. So it's pretty interesting. One other keyword related thing that I think is good to test is we have actually found that putting major keywords or keywords you want to be ranked better for towards the beginning of a title actually does appear to help us. So I think some people say, if you just put it anywhere in the title there, that's fine. You'll be ranked for it. But through some of our split tests, we actually have found that putting it towards the beginning of a title, Amazon does seem to weigh that a little bit heavier.
Okay, that's good. I've heard that mentioned by many high-end pay-per-click people, guys that are experts in their industry, and it's kind of the same thing. And it was like that also in the mobile space. Anything that's at the beginning typically means it's more important. The other thing, I don't know if you've heard this, Greg, there's been some talk, and I haven't tested this, that at least on the back-end search terms, Amazon's pretty good about mixing things and joining things. So if you have a keyword in field 1 and then you have a keyword in field 3, that it'll put both of those together to create a compound word if someone's searching for that. But people are now saying, well, actually, I'm finding that I'm ranking better if I can stick the words that are joined together to make, phrases. If they can be in the same field, I'm actually ranking higher for those than if it's pulling it from different fields. So I was like, I haven't tested that, and I have a theory on that. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't tested it yet, actually, either. I might need to set that up tonight after we get off the call.
Yeah, I think what might be going on, this is just a theory of mine, is that if I've got, let's say fields 1, 2, and 3 are indexing, but field 4 and 5 for some reason aren't, and I have the second part of that phrase is in field 4 or 5. Well, the first word is ranking, but because it's in field 1, but the second one isn't, so then it doesn't work. Whereas if they were both in field 1, then they would both be ranking, or they'd be indexed, so then you would rank well for that. I have a feeling that's what's going on, but it like you said, you never know what's going on with A9, so it's hard to say.
Right, exactly. So yeah. I guess if I'm a listener though, and I'm listening to this right now, the keyword stuff is a little bit harder to implement and to really perfect. So, I think there's just doing the price and that main image like I was talking about, I think that will make a huge difference for 95% of the people listening to this, and then personally, in my opinion, I think, once you've really optimized that, then you can start trying some of these things like we're talking about, and hopefully reporting back on how they're working, with, the compound words in the same keyword field or different ones. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. Yeah, and I agree. Those are fast changes as well. You don't have to go in and keep checking on things like crazy with keywords. You don't know what's indexed and what's not typically. There's things you can do to find out, but changing an image, boom, you go in there, you do it, and then you're set. So it's awesome stuff, Greg.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what else you got for us? Tell us, you're dropping the nuggets. Let's hear the rest.
Let's see here.
Dig deep.
Dig deep. No, those things that we just talked about, those are the main things I've been kind of testing lately.
Okay.
I am starting to try to either dispel some myths or confirm them on a few other things, but I just don't know quite enough about it yet to really report back on those things. So maybe I'll, if you're listening to this in the future, maybe I'll follow up in the comments on this, with some more discoveries I've made.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to have you come on a regular basis even to just talk about new discoveries, because we're always learning new things, and I'm sure you guys are, especially when you've got software tools to jump in the back and look at data.
Yeah,
love to hear
fun.
that. I do have a question though for you. If you're not able to jump on at midnight, at midnight Pacific to do things, right? It's a cool strategy and it keeps everything clean, but you just can't do it for whatever reason. You got a day job, let's say. Are there ways to automate that, set it up so that you don't have to be up at midnight?
Yeah. So a few months ago, I found out about a tool at the time. It was called AMZ Split. So it's pretty interesting. So it does the split testing for you. You can make the changes on the keywords or the pictures or whatever. So I've been using it for a while. And then actually just recently, I kind of reached out to the guys like, hey, I just want to introduce myself. I'm like, hey, I'm Greg from Jungle Scout, also in the software space and so forth. So long story short, recently I've kind of teamed up with them because it's such a cool tool. It's now called Splitly. Okay. So that's Split LY. And that's what it does is, of what we're just kind of talking about. So from that's kind of where I've been able to pull a lot of this cool information. It is a really neat tool. Like we talked about earlier, you can do this for free. You don't have to use a tool to do it, just the best thing to do is remember to go on, at midnight Pacific time and make those changes. Or if you want, the tool does do it automatically. It's something that I've been using for a few months now. I think kind of since it came out. And it's been helping me collect a lot of information I've been talking about. So yeah, I think, man, you should definitely check it out. If anyone wants to listen to it, feel free to check it out. I think there is like a 2-week free trial, I think. So, you can at least run one test and get some good information out of it before you even have to pay anything.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll put a link down in our show notes so that people can click over and check it out. Sounds cool. So does it work through via API? Like, I mean, are you putting all your account information into the system and then it logs in and automatically changes everything? I imagine that's how it's doing it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, you sync it up to your Seller Central account. For instance, like when I'm changing my main image, I'll load in a new main image as one of my variants. And then, every night at midnight, it changes my picture to the other picture. I'll usually let it run for at least 2 weeks. So usually after 2 weeks, I'll see how much of a difference it's made on sessions and conversions and so forth. If it's made like a huge amount, like before I was getting 1,000 sessions a day, now I'm getting 1,500 sessions a day, I'll go ahead and end the test because that's like a huge, 50% improvement.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of a no-brainer. If it's a little bit closer, say maybe a 10% improvement, I might let it run for another week or two just to make sure that the data is pretty accurate before I, make the change. So, but it's pretty cool. It's a lot smarter about statistics than I am. So it gives you, the level of significance. It gives you recommendations whether you should end the test or continue or go ahead and make the change and so forth. So it's pretty neat.
Oh, interesting. So it does the statistics of it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of powerful statistics on the back end of it. So,
does it actually download the data from your account, or do you have to download the report and then upload it, or how does that work?
No, it's an automated process. So it automatically syncs up, to get all your conversion and session data and all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to manually upload the report.
Oh, that's cool. So can you set, I imagine there's a good number of parameters. Like, can you load it up with like 2 or 3 different images and say, I want this image on this day and this one week later, and just kind of walk away from it and let it do its thing?
Yeah, you can. So you can run as many variants as you want. I'd probably recommend if you're just starting, only try 1 or maybe 2. But yeah, that's exactly right. So you could load it up with 1 or 2 images, start it. I could come back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. Personally, I'm usually so excited. I'm like logging in every day to check it. But
I know, you're like me.
Yeah, if you're more disciplined about checking analytics, then you could just come back in a couple of weeks and see. You could, sync up your new sessions and conversions data and then be like, it's usually pretty amazing. It's usually like a no-brainer, like, wow, this made a huge difference. So
yeah,
you can like tell it what you're trying to optimize for you. So you can try to optimize for sessions or conversions or profit, whatever else. You can say like what level of significance you want it. So whether it's 90% or 95 or whatever, you can tell it how often to rotate. So rotate every 24 hours or 72 hours or every 1 week or whatever. And then, yeah, you just kind of walk away and it just runs the test for you.
Oh, interesting. So your focus is on increasing sessions and you set that in there. What does the system do to try to follow up on those sessions or whatever it is that you've set?
Yeah. So I guess the only reason that you're telling it which goal you have in mind is just for its recommendations. So, for instance, if you're optimizing for profit and you're doing like a price change, your conversions might dip down a little bit, but your overall profit might increase. So, I guess it wants to know what your goal is for the recommendations it's giving you.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Outside of images, what else can you split test it through the system?
Yeah, so you can do images, you can do price, you can do title, bullet points, descriptions. So you can change just about anything with your listing in there.
Okay, everything on the front end. Can it do anything on the back end? Can it change your search terms, your 5K search terms on the back end?
Yeah, so I was just talking to the developers, James and Andrew, about this. And I guess they said by the time you're listening to this podcast, you'll probably be able to. I think it's in the works right now. They were just putting a few final touches on it.
Wow, it sounds like a cool thing. So Splitly. Splitly.com. That's a good name. Did you have to buy that domain or was it already available?
No, I don't think it was available. I think I purchased.
Yeah, it's hard to find a good domain these days, right?
I know, dang squatters.
So that's cool. So, all right. So into the split testing software, you've got, the product discovery software with Jungle Scout and your web-based application or service. Anything else down the in the pipeline down the road that you can even talk about?
Yeah, sure. I'll let you. I don't think I've ever told anyone about some of the stuff on public air, but that's cool. I'll spill the beans.
Perfect. Let's do it here.
We're going to turn into like a suite of tools. So, it started out with Jungle Scout. We have a whole bunch of users now. And one of the coolest things about that is we get like tons of feedback from them, right? They're like, man, I really like, there's nothing out there that does this or that or whatever. So, the coolest part about that is now that we have a really good group of developers and so forth. So, of course we have Jungle Scout. We released Review Kick, a few months ago. Fair amount of listeners may be using that now. The one I've never told anyone about is called Fetcher. And Fetcher is a robust accounting software for Amazon sellers. So again, if you're listening to this, maybe at the end of June or later, probably go to Fetcher.com and sign up. But it is, an accounting platform for sellers. So it automatically pulls in PPC data, sales. You enter your costs, your inbound shipping to Amazon, all that kind of stuff, and it just gives you all the really cool graphs and data that we all wish Seller Central had, right? Like Seller Central is terrible as far as like just trying to check your sales and your actual profit and so forth. So it gives you all that. It's also going to be robust enough that, you can print out a Schedule C at the end of the year and hand it to your accountant and he can handle the rest from there. So it's a really nice piece of accounting software if you're specifically an Amazon seller. I think before, there was like some plugins or people had really robust Excel sheets or so forth. So we're kind of solving that problem. So I'm really excited about that. And then, Splitly just kind of fell in my lap about a month ago. So getting to talk to those guys. So we've kind of partnered up on that one as well, but it's still mainly James and Andrew's baby. I'm just helping them out with it now.
Yeah, awesome. So Fetcher, I need some stuff for accounting for sure. I've been using not a lot. I just kind of got into what is it, Hello Profits? Is Fetcher pretty different to that, or is it got a lot of overlap?
Yeah, so Hello Profits really cool. I've been using it myself. I think Hello Profit's a great tool if you're looking for kind of like a multi-tool that does quite a few things, right? So it's kind of been referred to me. I thought this was a good analogy once. It's like a Swiss Army knife, right? It does a lot of things pretty well. Fetcher would be more if you're looking for like a really robust accounting platform that, can really take into account all your fees, all your expenses, and is more, like replaces right now, maybe if you're using like QuickBooks or Xero or whatever, now you can get rid of that and just use Fetcher.
Okay, awesome. What do you use for inventory management? Do you use anything at all?
Yeah, I'm using Forecastly right now for inventory management.
Okay, Forecastly. See, all right, there's a lot of good stuff in here. So, and then you had mentioned Review Kick. So for those of you that want to get some quick reviews, you got how many users do you have now on that actually review on Review Kick?
We have over 40,000 reviewers now. It's one of those things that kind of grows exponentially, right? So I think
it's crazy.
Now like 400 or 500 new reviewers are signing up every day. So there's tons of reviewers on there. Like when you list a product on there now, you get like hundreds and hundreds of requests. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's as of right now, it's a free service, right?
We actually just turned the paywall on last week, so it's no longer free. Yeah, but it is still pretty inexpensive. So we want to build up just like a huge, in order to get like all the best reviewers, you need tons of good products, right? So we're still keeping it really low cost right now because we still want, tons of good products being put on there all the time. But it is no longer free.
Okay, let me ask you about that. I am curious.
Yeah, sure.
Amazon has, I guess, lately been listing or unverifying orders, right? They're verified purchases, but then they become unverified if they're reviewed through some groups or if a price point goes below a certain amount. Do you know, I mean, have you been seeing that with price points? And do you have any recommendations when people are doing giveaways or using services like yours so that the reviews actually are a little bit more beneficial?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was just this past weekend, I was in Miami. I was chatting with Jeff Cohen, one of the founders of Snag Shout, which is also another good review service about this. And what we concluded is it's really tough to say. There doesn't seem to be an exact kind of algorithm how you can figure out whether it's going to be verified or not. The things that we think we know at least play into account is how big of a discount you give. So, when you're first launching a product, personally, I usually discount it a lot, down to like $1 just to get a whole bunch of initial reviews. After that, if you're just trying to add a few more reviews, I'd recommend trying to do a little bit less of a discount. So maybe give it like 50 or 60 or 70% off as opposed to like 95%. I think that definitely helps. One of the other things that personally I believe helps is giving your product to reviewers that aren't super active leaving reviews. So I think some of these reviewers have been a little bit targeted by Amazon if they're leaving like 10 or 15 new reviews a day. So if you can give it to, the reviewers who are leaving one a week or one a month or whatever, I think those people are less likely to potentially get the reviews removed or be unverified. So that's personally something I've found. I know, like, I imagine other people are doing this too, but at Review Kick now we're trying to get all of our new reviewers through like Facebook ads, targeting people that aren't normally in the kind of like review stuff for discount space, right? So these are like very normal people, right? That, are just normal, very normal Amazon shoppers. And I think those people tends to, stick or become or be verified or so forth better.
Is there a way through Review Kick to actually filter who's going to review your product in terms of like, I don't want somebody that's posting 10 per day?
Yes. So with Review Kick, people would apply to review your product, and then you'd have a whole list of reviewers, and you can see the same information that's publicly available on their Amazon reviewer profile. So you can see like, oh, this person's left 1,000 reviews before, or, oh, this person's left 4. And you can see like the percentage of helpful votes and so forth. So me personally, I like to give coupons to reviewers who have a high percentage of helpful votes, because that means they leave like high quality reviews that Amazon likes, the consumers that are reading the reviews likes, and so forth. And then I also personally, I actually like to stay away from the people who have left just like a ton of reviews before, or, people have used the term like professional reviewer, right? These people are really just leaving like tons of reviews. I kind of like to stay away from those people a little more. Okay.
So to see that data though, to know, you have to click into their account and look at it. It's not available. There's not like a filter within the thing that says, I only want people that have done this or that.
Oh, no, it's all tabulated. You can sort by the columns or whatever. So you can sort by the people who have the most helpful votes, or have left the lowest amount of reviews or whatever. So yeah, you just see a whole table of all that data, and then you can just hit like the check mark or the X on who you want or who you don't want.
Okay, cool. And then have you found any data related to whether unverified reviews or non-verified actually improve your overall average rating, the star rating? I mean, I know the review shows up, but let's say they give you a 5-star. Will that have any impact? Does that affect your overall rating?
Yeah, so I've found some really interesting data on this actually. So for one, the verified or not having the verified badge, I don't think it hurts, or I don't think it affects your conversions at all. I don't think a normal uneducated consumer on Amazon that's not in like the selling space even really looks for those verified badges, or only maybe like 1%, a very small amount of them.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. The one thing that I have found, this is rare scenarios, but I still have seen it, is if you have like a crappy product that organically only gets like 1-star and 2-star reviews, if you have a whole bunch of 4 or 5-star reviews from promotional giveaways, at some point there's some kind of flag in Amazon's system, or you'll hit some kind of threshold that they will no longer factor in the promotional reviews into your review score. Okay.
Yeah,
they'll still be shown in the list. So like if you have 100 reviews, still show all the ones that were given for promotions or the ones that weren't given for promotions. However, to calculate your average review score, there's some threshold that they'll actually stop doing, or stop factoring in the promotional reviews to your review score. So I guess the moral of the story is we all want high quality, at the end of the day, you do want high quality products that organically are getting good reviews. There's some point that, you can't just do a whole bunch of promotions to outweigh that anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I've been hearing. I've been hearing that non-verified reviews. I don't know what the threshold is like you. I don't know what triggers it, but at some point, if you're a 3-star average rating, that's your score for your product, and you suddenly start, you blast out and get 100 promo reviews, people that have that are just reviewing it to get the product for free or at a discount. You might have tons of these reviews come in, all 5 stars, but your overall score just doesn't go up. It stays at 3. So I was like, that's interesting. But I also say, people shouldn't be using these services for that kind of purpose anyways. It should be for your launch, get that social proof. Because like you said, the average person never even notices if it says verified or non-verified. They're just looking and they see, hey, it's got 16 reviews. It's a 5-star average. I'm ready to order this product.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, Greg, you have the review search. You just want people use as many of those as possible. And it's like, no, I don't actually. I just want you to use it the minimal amount possible so you can get a good launch. And then after that, I want you making organic sales and getting organic reviews and so forth. So, yep.
Perfect. All right, cool. Man, we were all over the place. I know in the beginning we were like, what should we focus on? We've talked about everything. So this has been good, but I think we've got it under an hour here, so that's perfect. Any other things you wanted to talk about that maybe I know we've jumped around, that we've skipped or anything like that?
Sure. I'll throw in one little thing just because right before I got on the call with you, hopefully I'm actually allowed to say this. I think I am. I was talking to someone at Amazon about a new program that was pretty cool. And he had talked to me because he's interested in me promoting it. But this is pretty neat. I guess I'm just trying to give some, a little bit of extra value here, a little glimpse into the future that most people don't know about, is they're starting this program actually that they're going to discount commissions for certain categories or style of products. So they have an algorithm that says, okay, Amazon might not be the most competitive place for bamboo marshmallow sticks, right? So then they might say, okay, if you start selling bamboo marshmallow sticks, instead of 15% commission, we're only actually going to charge you 3% commission because we either want more people selling that on our platform or we want the prices to be more competitive. So just a little heads up there. That's something you guys probably want to look out for in the future.
That's cool. Did they say, is this slowly being rolled out now, or is it something they're going to be releasing?
They're going to be releasing it. So, I was talking to someone at Amazon about it. He actually contacted me because he was like, this could fit into product research really nicely, right? So he was like, hey, maybe you could help me out here by saying, we want more people selling bamboo marshmallow sticks and we'll give them the discount on it. So that might affect their product research. So yeah, something to be aware of.
That's nice. Do you know how many categories? Do you have any other information, like what kind of categories and when they might officially roll it out?
I don't know a date on when they're going to officially roll it out, but it's interesting because different people are going to be eligible for different items or categories. So yeah, you wouldn't give me all the details on how the algorithm's going to work, but how I kind of took it, like right now, if you're selling a whole bunch of home and garden items, they'd probably offer this for subcategories or product types in that area. If you're selling electronics, they're probably not going to offer you this for baby products. So it's going to probably be like niche that you're already have been selling or involved in.
Okay. So it's your feeling then that they're going to reach out to existing customers first before in a specific category and just lower that rate versus going out to just general sellers, kind of like a big blast and saying, hey, everybody, if you want to jump into this category, the rate is dropped from 15 to 5%.
Yeah, so I think it's going to start with reaching out more to the specific sellers. And then it's my impression that if they still didn't get enough interest in that product type or niche or whatever, that's when they'd say like, okay, this is, the promotional commission now for everyone.
Yeah, that's cool because the margins can get tight sometimes on specific products. I've had one, in fact, this morning I was looking at that. I was like, you know what, I'm going to bring it in. But then after factoring everything in, I'm like, yeah, it's just not enough profit there after taking the 15% out. So it just won't work.
Yes. That'd be pretty cool, right? If instead of 15% commission, you knew some products that were only 3% commission, that'd be pretty sweet.
That would be cool. Is it your feeling that this is is it right around the corner or are we still like months away?
I would imagine probably it's kind of hard to tell these big corporations, right? But Amazon moves
right.
pretty fast. So, he was doing a screen share with me on the kind of the beta platform and it appeared to be already. So yeah, I guess it's really just hard to say how quickly you can move with it. I would imagine it's somewhere if I was guessing.
How do I, there's a question for you. This is a very, very important question, Greg. How do I get my own personal super Amazon rep like that? I want to know all this stuff in advance. I'll just call you.
Good question. Every time I talk to someone from Amazon, I always ask them, lots of questions like, who would you recommend I talk to for this? Or can you make an introduction to this and this and this? And through that, I guess I've kind of built like this web at Amazon, right? But still, it's such a huge company that sometimes it's really hard to get to the people that you really need to be talking to, right?
Yeah.
Or it's even really hard to get an introduction for the person you need to be talking to.
Yeah, that's true. Well, this has been an awesome interview. It's been fantastic, actually. There's so many good things, and you dropped that last little nugget on us, so that's perfect. A perfect way to close it. I appreciate that. And
all right.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. I know it's getting late over there in Spain. So, can we definitely have you back on for, maybe we can do this, I don't know, every couple months or something like that when something new and exciting comes up and have you back on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. I've had a blast talking to you. Yeah, I look forward to chatting with you again.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the answers. And yeah, we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks, Manny. Take care.
You too. So there it was, guys. How cool was that? Pretty cool, I think. There was a lot of information, a lot of cool little tactics, right? So just to make sure you guys are getting great value, I know we try to provide as much value as we can in our podcast. We want to give you guys a little extra, a little something. So there's a tools page over at AMPM Podcast where we link, and we're actually adding to this on a weekly basis now. We're making it better and better, but we link the tools that we're actually using here, okay, the stuff that I use. And the tools that we just discussed on the show during this interview are linked there. And if you go and you actually sign up through those links, you'll get a little special, a little bonus, whether it's a discount or a longer trial or whatever the case might be. Each tool has a little different perk, all right? So check it out, and you're by no means obligated to go through there and click and sign up or do anything through those links. If you do, I want to say that I will get a small commission. So feel free to do whatever it is that you want to do. But if you do, like I said, you'll get a little perk, a little discount, a little bonus, something. All right, guys, that's it. Head over to ampmpodcast.com/tools. That's ampmpodcast.com/tools, and you'll see everything there. Take care.
You've been listening to the AMPM podcast hosted by Manny Coates. For more information, insider tools, and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit ampmpodcast.com.